Hello, Francesca Raffa here. I'm an intuitive channel guiding and leading shamanic and feminine wisdom passages devoted to igniting and aligning your voice, your body, and your heart. And I've been guiding women for over 8 years now in transformational journeys. That is guiding them back into their body, back into living in alignment with who they truly are. I wanted to come here today to share a little bit of insight that I've been receiving for the year 2026, and based on my own experiences as well, as always, because I can only ever speak from my direct experience, and that's how I desire to show up and what I desire to relay to everyone here. So there's something about 2026 already that feels clarifying. So if you are tuning into this video prior to the 17th of February, we're still in the final week of the snake year. It's a big one. However, I'm going to relate this video for the upcoming year from starting from February 17th, which is the commencing date of the Lunar New Year of the horse, the fire horse year, which so many people have been sharing a lot about online, and it's starting to build momentum. So I really wanted to come in here and share a bit of an insight that what I also feel is going to be a really strong focus for this year, because I feel like life is asking us to become more coherent inside. There is a really strong pull to taking even more responsibility. And actually, what does responsibility mean? Holding responsibility. And all of these qualities that I'm sharing here are really to do with the masculine, how we choose, how we lead, how we commit. And this is coming from the masculine from a very different lens to what we're used to, because you may know that the most of the world is run on a hyper masculine level, right? Where it's like go, 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 where your inner rhythm is bypassed and it's all about urgency, speed, productivity, getting things done. But it's really lacking a heart. It's really lacking the courageous, vulnerable, passionate heart. And that's what this year is really going to amplify or step us into a little bit more. So it's healing the inner masculine, and therefore we are contributing to the collective masculine. And this isn't a concept that is outside of us. This is all about the inner union and the inner vowing of our own inner masculine and our inner feminine. So I talk a lot and share a lot about the inner feminine, but however, this year really is bringing a highlight to the inner masculine within my own journey and within so many of us. So I wanted to share a little bit of a story that has unfolded over the past year as I have really felt called to working more strongly with my inner masculine. And I believe that there is this like pendulum swing is how I refer to it. When we start on this awakening journey or our spiritual journey, I don't even really like to call it that, but more of our like stepping more into awareness, patterns, consciousness, okay? I feel like there is a pendulum swing here where we are in the noise of the world, which is run by hypermasculinity, and we swing really far to the left, where we drop into the feminine, where we start to acknowledge our body, where we start to acknowledge our feelings, where we start to listen to all of these parts of ourselves. And then we can get really swung to that side. And on a flip side, being so far to the left, the feminine, can create a lot of non-action and can kind of keep this like looping of what we see a lot within the spiritual communities and spaces today, where we're kind of like in these traps where, maybe you're being fed information that is saying, like, you just got to keep doing the work, got to keep healing. And it's kind of keeping you on this loop. And I see this a lot. And it's it's prioritizing freedom, but freedom without responsibility keeps kind of everything in one space, and you're not actually creating and you're not actually moving forward. You're just like, hey, yeah, I'm free. And I shared this in my last video, as this was one of the downloads that came through for me last month. So feel free to watch my last video. And so why I feel like the focus this year is going to be on the masculine, and what that means is really coming at life from the heart, passionate heart. What happens when the masculine within us is held in the heart? And what happens when the heart leads? Life will start to move very differently, with a different kind of clarity and from a truer place. So let me share my process and my story with the inner masculine that I've been going through for the past year. So last year, 2025, there was a strong surge of this desire to step into leadership. Leadership can be a masculine quality. Towards the end of the year, I was receiving a prophetic dream where I was in the astral and I was clearing a karmic tie to a past life that I have known about for over 2 years, but of course divine timing has its righteous time. And in this dream, I was clearing the karmic cord to a past life in India where I was in an arranged marriage and I was extremely trapped, which this showed up in patterns of my fear of commitment in the now and how I relate to the masculine. And that's not just men. I'm not referring to men in general, although men and our fathers are or the father is the first imprint and mirror of the masculine for ourselves. So what I was receiving in terms of my work with the masculine within that clearing of that karmic tie, it was to do with the masculine as such, and how there was a fear of commitment within myself. That was also, everything that happens within is mirrored without anyway, right? But within myself, where I wasn't fully in trust or in commitment and devotion to my own inner masculine. So in this dream, when that karmic tie cleared, I remember waking up from the dream. It was probably about 3 a.m., 4 a.m., deep breath, like I felt this huge release move through me. And then a few days later, I was at a beautiful kirtan and there was a Ganesha mantra, and we were chanting the Ganesha mantra. And in that, the dream recall came through as I was singing the Ganesha mantra, and I started to pour with tears. They are flooding with gratitude and this lightness. And Ganesha is the god of clearing obstacles. He clears the path, right? He clears our pathways. And so in that moment, I was just flooded with gratitude, thanking Ganesha as I was chanting and singing this song, because I realized that he was there supporting in that process of clearing that karmic tie, and it felt like a full completion. And about a month later, I found myself in Bali, and a woman was I was in a cafe, and this woman was sitting, and she was telling me about, she went to the Elephant Cave, which is the Goa Gaja in Ubud in Bali. And she was saying it was the temple dedicated to the masculine, and straight away my whole body lit up, and I said, I have to go and pay homage to Ganesha and to the masculine. I need to give some prayers to the masculine, because not only do I feel like I was clearing so much karma within my father line last year, and to do with the masculine within mirroring in relationships and seeing where I still wasn't fully in trusting or in holding of my own inner masculine to lead and to protect and to set boundaries, right? Because that's all the qualities that our inner masculine offer. And there was parts of me that were still shaming that, was still feeling a bit resistant or kind of rejecting, actually. And so I went to the temple and I was gifted some beautiful roses by a dear sister of mine, which was the offering I took. And this is where I began with the roses, and I took set for the pilgrimage to the temple, and I hired a local guide to take me around the temple. And it felt really symbolic, actually, to be led by him in this temple dedicated to the masculine and to the Ganesha god. And as we walked into this incredible temple, it was basically inside a cave, and we'd walk in and there was the statue of Ganesha, and I had my 4 roses, and I offered 4 prayers to Ganesha, 4 prayers, one for the men of this world, one for the women in this world, one for all beings in this world, and then one for myself, that my path may be continuously cleared so I can continue to move in a place of alignment and pure love and authenticity with who I am. And I offered these prayers, and then I continued to walk around the temple, and I found myself seated at the waters, and I began to meditate, and a chant came through. And as I started singing this chant, and I actually recorded it. It's on my Instagram somewhere, or I can pop the link to it below. And I started chanting, and this was like an anchoring of the prayers, and also an honoring for the masculine, and prayers to the collective masculine. And just as I finished recording that, I look at my phone and I receive a message from my father. And as I mentioned briefly earlier, the father figure is our first imprint and mirror of the masculine figure. And our parents are our first figures that offer us safety, support, and love. And so however we have been taught and conditioned and learned through what they've modeled is how our own inner feminine and inner masculine operate, right? So they are our first external mirrors to help us see more clearly our own patterns. So just as I finished recording that beautiful anchoring of prayers through a chant, through song, through Ikaro, I received a message from my father, and he was sending me videos about the rising of the divine feminine. And then he wrote this beautiful message that shared, I have a very beautiful gut feeling that you emanate the frequencies of Christ Sophia. Sophia is the feminine path, light of Christ, and Mary Magdalene. And he then wrote in confirmation, I feel very, I can't remember the exact word he used, but he was like, I feel very like confident, or very almost in approval of the feminine path that you are on. And then he asked me that he would be very interested in asking or receiving or having some very interesting conversations with me around this topic. Now, as I received this message, this was like a whole sensation of completion. It was like through his mirroring of seeing me, my inner masculine was like, I see you. And then my inner feminine's kind of like, oh, I can receive you, right? And within me, what felt like shifted was this, as my inner feminine has been rising during my path for the past 8 years, and I've been strengthening, it's like now finally the inner masculine can rise to meet her. And the message from my father was like the biggest completion of what I was anchoring in there that day. And I speak about this from a personal perspective because this is a personal story and experience, but everything that we do is that as an individual has an impact on the whole. So even though this was a personal element for me particularly, this is also in reference to the collective masculine, and how what I'm receiving is that this year we are really going to be seeing where the masculine, the collective masculine, is really coming up to rise to meet the feminine. This is first within ourselves, and then that will start to ripple and mirror on the outer world. So this is something that we can bring our focus to this year. How do we get to bring more healing to our own inner masculine? How do we get to bring even more safety so that our inner masculine can create the direction for us? Because this year is a yang year anyway. The fire element is yang, which is masculine. And the horse actually does represent a masculine figure. It's authority, it's freedom, but it's direction, and it's controlled, and it's heart-led and passionate, and it wants to move forward. And so this year, it wants us to move forward, but if we do not have a strong foundation or a direction, it's going to be really difficult to move forward, right? It needs to have that clear path. So where am I going with all of this is that I feel that 2026 is really going to ask us not to push harder, not to just charge ahead, but to move cleaner, to tune into integrity instead of urgency, to really see the importance of structure and foundation and clarity instead of moving from fear and instead of moving from urgency again. Yeah, there's this real shift from moving with urgency to actually, I'm just going to halt until the path is clear and I know exactly where the direction is to go. And then you can take those reins of the horse and you can start to gallop. This is about your presence, not performance. And even if that means taking a full step back from anything that you feel really deep in with right now, taking yourself fully out so you can see kind of all roadmaps and tune into which one is the one you're going to go full steam ahead with that direction. So the healed masculine feels very, very different to what the operation of what we see most of the world rewards, where it's like rewarding productivity over rest, right? It's rewarding getting things done, even if it's not necessarily so integral, but this year, there is going to be an opportunity for you to have clean direction, for you to be steady with your boundaries, to be protection that is rooted deeply in love. And that every action you take is through intention and from listening, not simply acting to act, but acting from intention and because you've received the clarity that is the action that it is that you need to take. So it is really this year that, yes, we're letting the inner masculine meet the inner feminine, but that's probably because we've been doing so much of that inner feminine work, right? Where the feminine has been so alive, of course, because it has to be, because we've had to clear so much emotional baggage, especially in 2025 in the snake year. We were really slithering, and that's the real epitome of the feminine, of the death and the rebirth and the shedding. And so now we have that strong relationship to clearing away those old identities, and the emergence of the new is here. And now we get to strengthen and bring more healing to our inner masculine so that he can lead from the heart. I say he, but let's talk about it as genderless, not necessarily, but through archetypes of the masculine, the feminine. So the healing the masculine means returning to our power to move and choose back into right relationship with the heart. And that's what feels like a core lesson for 2026. So it's not about moving faster, it's about moving much, much, much truer. And I wanted to share a beautiful ritual. So I'm just having a look here as to seeing whether this is still recording. I wanted to share a beautiful ritual that is going to really support stepping into devotion with the masculine, but also just the inner union within, right? We are in the month of February. There is a lot of talk about Valentines and love and the beloved. And I really wanted to draw the attention first to the inner beloved and the inner marriage and the inner vow. So this ritual is with the rose, because in all of this, the rose has really been speaking loud and clear again. for me to work with on a deeper level. Now, the rose and blue lotus are both my very strong plant allies, and 8 years ago was where I really started deep with the medicine of the rose. And it's interesting how now, after a whole 9-year cycle, she's coming back in again very strongly for me to work with on a deeper level, because the rose is the union flower. It's one of the most ancient flowers known to earth, and it's the perfect balance of duality. It's the softness and the protector. The stem is the masculine, that strong, steady stem that the flower is blooming and opening in, the blossom of the rose that is blooming and opening. They are held, anchored, sturdy by that stem, the thorns representing the boundaries, and the layers, the petals, the layers of the feminine, the many facets of the feminine that isn't afraid to let things fall, so that and then the seed that's at the center of the rose is the core of who you are beneath all of this. It is a beautiful flower to support us in this inner union, and also being in devotion to the masculine, right? So I feel called to share more about the medicine of the rose through this ritual that I have listed down for you below. You can do this ritual at any point this month. And I just would love us to explore what it means for you to work with the rose. The rose will speak to each of our consciousnesses in a very different way, right? And it will bring the exact medicine that you need at this point in time for you. So it's about how you work with the rose intentionally, and we set this intention to, where do I need healing within my own inner masculine? What is my inner masculine longing for? How can I vow to myself, create my own inner union vows between my inner feminine and inner masculine, so I can meet myself fully, wholly, that then I can move this year through this year with this clear direction, with this beautiful union that feels balanced, that feels steady, that feels mixed with that listening to intuition and then taking rightful aligned action, like really working these together so steadily, not falling out of balance, right? And I think I'd like to just share an analogy about this. Like, if we are on a horse, if you're actually sitting yourself on a horse, if you go too far to the left of the horse, you're going to fall off. If you go too far to the right on the horse, you're going to fall off. You want to be really, really strong centered in the middle of that horse. And then that's what gives you the leverage to be able to meet. And, when you're bouncing up and down on the horse, you have to, when you're galloping with the horse, you have to go with the rhythm of the horse, right? So it's like, you're going with the horse is the representation of the rhythm of your direction or your life path, and you want to maintain this continuum with it, and you're meeting it in your rhythm, right? And then at the same time, we want to remember that our mind is what holds the reins and what gives ourselves this sense of control and direction, because the power of the mind is what allows us to stay committed to what it is that we are setting our direction and our intention in and on. So these are just things that I just wanted to share, but you can bring this into the ritual when you're working with the rose. This ritual is a tea ritual, so it's about drinking the rose and sending your prayers and your intentions into the cup that you are then pouring and drinking into your body. And again, this is like this beautiful circuit where you whisper your prayers into the rose and you work with her beautiful qualities of self-forgiveness, of self-compassion, of self-love, of inner union, of opening, of seeding, of anchoring, all of these qualities. And you allow her medicine to open you, to de-armor you, to reveal where there are blocks and resistances towards allowing your inner masculine to lead from the heart. How can you trust more and more and more your inner masculine? How can you commit to your own inner masculine first, before you even consider the outer union, or if you're single, or if you're looking for your counterpart or your sacred union, how can you even consider this if you haven't built right relationship with your own inner masculine? Because if we're not doing that groundwork, there will always be a layer of woundedness, of where you may be approaching, and I'm saying this from a feminine lens, but also refer to it as a masculine. You will always be reproaching finding a counterpart to meet the parts of yourself that you feel like you cannot access within yourself. And then that creates this codependency. So the more you can commit to your inner union, this wholeness, that whenever you are inviting new connections into your life, you invite them from a place of wholeness too. And so everything becomes a complement and a mirror of where you're at, and approaching things from pure unconditional love and purity, instead of any form of underlying shadow that's there. I mean, yes, things are going to be present, but this is the work that I believe we all each hold responsibility for. And this year is really calling for us to step up into this, to support the rising of the collective masculine. And we all hold a place in that. So this ritual gives this inner union a language to understand. It's very simple. It's working with the medicine of the rose. It's subtle, okay? It's subtle. It's allowing yourself to be held as you are drinking the tea and feeling at the same time. So there is, again, you're working with the inner union polarity here, because you're holding yourself steady, strong, anchored, and the rose is softening all of the emotional layers or protection layers, so that you can hold them more and allow it to come to the surface. And within this ritual, I've invited you also to create some inner, to write your own vows that you can commit yourself to, that you can devote yourself to for the rest of the year. So I've written it all out for you below in the comments, in the blog post. And you can all have a look at that and do that beautiful ritual. And I'd love to hear in the comments how you moved through the ritual, how the rose was working for you, what messages the rose has for you. I would love to hear, because in all of our shares of our experience, we are able to even put all of these puzzle pieces together and to see even more of the collective truth from each other. So please do share. And is there anything else that I wanted to share about what's happening? When we meet our inner masculine in this way, when we devote to this inner union, we are really going to be in service to love, which means everything that we do, how we create, we are ensuring that we are in service to love, guided by truth. This is a year of truth. This is a year of you moving solely to what is true to you, because the rest won't have a backbone to be there anymore, right? Like this, if it's not true, then something it will reveal itself. It will reveal itself. Whatever's not true right now cannot withhold. It cannot stand. The horse doesn't do, confusing cues. The horse is like, it's either left or right, forward, otherwise it's just going to knock you off the horse, in the best way possible. And so if you are looking for support this year in getting very clear with your direction, right, and some of the steps and some structure that can support you in staying committed to that direction, then I have a few offerings, especially my one-to-one mentorship Ignite. It is a fire year, so Ignite is really what it's all about. It's igniting the passion within you, but then also being held accountable in the direction of what that looks like, and clearing any blocks and limitations, working on the shadow realms as well, clearing any blocks, limitations to where there are limiting beliefs held within your father line, within your mother line. If you want to get set up now ASAP and you want to start working on your inner union, and looking through your mother wounds and your father wounds, as I mentioned, to step into inner union, the best supportive mirror that we have is our parents. They show us what patterns we've inherited. So in my Way of the Heart course, I share so many teachings. It's 4 modules of me just sharing meditations and transmissions and activations to help heal through father wounds, mother wounds, inner child, activating the rose codes, working with Mary Magdalene and Yeshua, which are the symbolism and of the divine union. They were walking divine union, and their consciousness is very, very much present in today's consciousness, supporting us so that we can come back fully to the union of the heart, to be in service to love, to be in service to life. And lastly, I am part of a collective school called the Sacred Women's School, and we have a beautiful women's community there called the Radiant Woman Hive. There's multiple tiers available. That is affordable. That puts you into this spaciousness of all these types of topics that I'm bringing to you now. But not just that, we have weekly calls, we have workshops in there, there are rituals. So I'm actually guiding an entire rose tea ceremony ritual in the Radiant Woman Hive this month in the woven tier. We also have a rose tier where you get one-on-one sessions with me and my beautiful, beautiful fellow sister Emilio Kalani, who is absolutely incredible. So I'm going to pop all of the links to these offerings that can best support you this year, and you can explore the call of those if you feel. I feel like the more accountability we have in the direction, this is really going to set us up for the next 9 years. So if you're in a space right now where everything you kind of once knew who you were, everything is like you're questioning, like, what do you even like? What is, where do I go from here? Maybe you're in that space. Maybe you have already started to receive more clarity on what that is, and now are looking for more of the direction and the structure and the steps and more of that inner masculine within yourself to kind of step up and go, hey, I got this, I'm going to lead. Let's start structuring. Let's do the groundwork. Let's do the foundational work that is really going to support us in the next 9-year cycle. So feel free to share in the comments anything that resonated from this, where you feel like you are at within your connection to your inner masculine. We are always constantly shifting and changing, but let's just speak on the level of what may have happened to you last year around this. What do you feel is missing, lacking, or what do you feel is over operating? Where do you feel like there could be some balance? Do you have no idea what I'm talking about and want to understand more? That's all welcome. So drop it into the comments. And the last thing I want to share about the closing of this is returning to the heart. When the heart leads, the masculine remembers how to stand, and life reorganizes what's true. So if there be any prayer to close this, it is that may what guides you forward not be done through force, but in devotion to your own heart. Yeah. Sending you all so much love.